Welcome to No Master, No Slave. A show that seeks to reveal the hidden aspects of our world. History, philosophy, science, spirituality, and the truth of that which is. No master, no slave.
Welcome to the Free Your Mind podcast. This is episode 11, and we have a very special episode today. We're doing a simulcast with No Master, No Slave. My name is Rahul. I'm here with my friend Bill and my friend Patty.
Hey, everybody. Great to have No Master, No Slave with us. It's episode number 2 for them.
Hello.
And we have Mike and Zach on board from No Master, No Slave. Zach, Mike, you there?
Hi, everyone. That's Mike.
Hey, guys. Zach here. Nice to be with you guys. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, wonderful to have you.
And we all met at the Free Your Mind conference, except for Patty. Patty was unable to go because of her leg, but it was it was tragedy that happened. But otherwise, she would have been there. And so nice meeting you guys, man. And what a crazy world we live in with all these social network tools that allows us to get to know each other before we actually meet in person.
I mean, that was exactly how me and Zach met. I was looking at starting up a Meetup group, and I messaged him about some advice. And then we started talking, and the next thing I know, he helped me out in a whole room, because I had no one I could get from my area could go. I live in Cleveland, Ohio, and no one was able to go with me, so it worked out perfectly that way. He helped me out the room, and I met a whole bunch of people that way, right through him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and that's how we all met, too. We met through a Meetup group, Rahul, Patty, and I.
Yeah, Patty put that together, and now here we are.
Yep, and all three of us, and that's just how it happens, man, is that, you just feel this, like, intuitive nudge when you meet somebody, and you need to listen to that, and we're taught with social structures and whatnot that's mumbo-jumbo, woo-woo, pseudoscience. Don't listen to that crap, but you need to listen to it. It's there for a reason. We have these intuitive nudges as intrinsic desires, these motivations in life, and when you follow those, you're going to be fulfilled. And so, especially as we open up our eyes to the world around us, what started you both? We'll start with you, I guess, Mike, on your path to seeking truth. Have you always just kind of stood out of the crowd?
It's funny with me. I actually was. I can honestly say I was under good mind control, lockdown for a large portion of my life. Up about until I was 21. I'm 26 right now. Just turned a few days ago.
Happy birthday.
But what really changed my mind was one night I was going down a health career path. And I just didn't feel right about it. It was, I think, a radiography or something like that, and it didn't sit right with me. And I remember one night before clinicals, I was online just searching. I didn't even know what I was searching for. And I ended up finding Zeitgeist, and the very first one, and I watched that, and I just started really questioning things ever since then. Then I went straight into, the Alex Jones, then I went into, questioning 9/11, and everything else fell from there. And ever since, I've been on a constant journey of discovery and learning and aggregating information.
Well, it's kind of weird. You grab onto that string and you start pulling, and all of a sudden the whole tapestry starts unraveling.
Absolutely. As long as you have that desire and that curiosity, and you don't stop when you initially find it, you can go as far as you want to go.
Right.
And you'll never stop. Then that's the beauty of it.
There's so many avenues.
That's one. That's one interesting thing I think about when people talk about being awake. I think we're always awakening. It's never really we are awake, absolutely, but I think it's a constant journey of awakening.
Yeah, there's still a lot more to learn.
Yeah, it's a process, and at different levels, different steps. and different realizations as we raise our consciousness to, the world around us. Come together, science, to knowledge, to learn about the world around us, and learn the facts about the plane that we have incarnated in. So you are very similar to Patty, where she was in the medical field. And what exactly is clinicals? I don't.
Oh, what that means is it's you basically going in. It's like on the job experience. So you'll go in under supervision. Say you'll basically be it's like a guided work with someone who's already in the profession, usually with like a few years of experience at least, and then they'll guide you through and show you what you do, and they'll let you do things. But that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell.
Almost like a apprenticeship or something like that.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Okay, that's interesting. And Patty, did you ever take clinicals?
I started doing rotations in medical school, and
What's rotations?
I think I mentioned on a previous podcast that I was doing a rotation with Dr. Joel Furman.
Is a rotation and a clinical the same thing? Is that or is that?
Yeah, in med school you kind of go to different fields. I left during my third year of medical school though, so I didn't complete all of that. Okay. I just started the clinical rotations. That's what we refer to those as.
Well, I think that it's interesting that the medical field is in itself a catalyst for people to wake up, because they get in it and they feel this intuition like, no, something's
not right here.
Yeah. And I commend you both for listening to that, because just like I was saying earlier, you need to listen to that. You need to follow what that nudge is saying. And what about you, Zach?
Yeah, I was a order follower, actually. I joined the Navy I wanted to feel like I was part of the good big team for the good fight, filling that empty void inside and kind of lost, not really knowing anything really. And then 2008, a friend gave me Zeitgeist, so I had a pretty similar awakening start there as Mike.
Did you watch Zeitgeist?
Yes.
So that was me too. How about you, Patty? Zeitgeist for you?
Yeah, I've seen there've been several, haven't there?
Yeah, Addendum, and there's a few of them. The Venus Project, that's the only where I kind of differ, because I love my land, I love working it, I love, and whatever. We can get into that at another episode, but I loved the Zeitgeist, was a catalyst for me too. What was your motivating factor for joining the Navy?
It's a really good question. I wanted to feel like I was part of something. There was like
a family.
Yeah,
like
I wanted a family feeling, and I wanted pride. I wanted people to be proud of me. It was just a lot of, I was very lost, and I was looking for something, kind of just a train ride I could jump on that would take me to success without me having to really. It was just outsourcing all the things that you actually have to do in life.
Have to do yourself, yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, here's an easy ride. I'll get on this train, and then a few years later, people respect me. I'm doing a good thing, and all I got to do is sign this piece of paper and do what they tell me to do. And I never really fit in. Well, I did really well. They really liked me. I got advanced well. I did good on tests and stuff, but I didn't really ever. The conditioning didn't really sit in well with me. I never really liked it. I never really enjoyed it, and. As soon as I learned about the false flags and the lies and the deception and the international banking and the whole web of deceit, it was a pretty easy decision for me to get out of that whole mindset.
Well, and just like the medical field, I'm sure that you had intuitive nudges in that arena that made you, just question just about everything. Or did you? What was it like, man? I almost went into the armed services, but they had me, I guess I did really well on my ASVAB, which is a test that you take here in America in high school. What is it? Armed Services Vocational Aptitude test or something like that is what it stands for. And so all the kids in America take this test in high school, and then it goes to the Army, and then they kind of categorize what would make your role in the armed services. And they came back to me because I was really good in math and all that, as an engineer, the Corps of Engineer, and so they really made it enticing. And then I went in there and was going to sign up, and just something told me, don't do this. And I'm glad I didn't. My grandpa was there, and I disappointed him. And I'm sorry to see that look in his face. And even now I recognize that, or I remember that, because I just let him down. But I don't feel bad as I did, because I understand that it was built on false ideologies and premises that he gave himself to, and just because I chose a different path, and I think that I did the right decision on that. But I still am very curious, and I watch all these reality shows where they put these guys through boot camp, and what was that like, man?
I was in the Navy boot camps, different than Army, Marine Corps. So I played a lot of sports in high school, so I'd say I over prepared for it. So for me, it really wasn't that challenging. Now it's the cult conditioning. You know, it's lots of screaming, lots of yelling. Everybody gets their head shaved, and you know they're just breaking people down. But I think that I mentally and physically over prepared for it, so it didn't really. I don't know. I think that there's some of us that can go through that system, not get as affected as others, and
right.
So luckily I didn't come out the other end of that a completely different person, but it inevitably affected me on some degree. I mean, I was folding everything the way they told me to fold it. I was even walking the way they told me to walk, and so yeah, it's a successful cult conditioning system for sure.
Yeah, well, anytime that I have a dog that is eager to learn, I'm all about it, you know, because it's easy. It's push button, you know, it's you know, the dog is wanting to please, and I think that that's where you were, but you were walking with awareness as well, so you didn't let it affect you, and that's where you were saying that it doesn't affect some people as much as it does others. But yeah, if you're a willing participant, it's much different than if they had to so-called break you, and that's where you know, that's why they want to keep people motivated to go into the Army, is where they don't have to initiate this draft. And I think that's very interesting. How long were you in the Navy?
I was in for just under 7 years.
Wow.
7 years.
Wow. And then and you watched the Zeitgeist when you were in the Navy? Is that?
Yeah. So I re-enlisted after 4 years. Even though I didn't like it and I wanted to get out, I didn't know that it was a cult of ultimate evil. I didn't know about the deceit or any of that. I just kind of knew, I don't like these guys telling me what to do all the time. And I can go out there and do something different. Well, they pitched and said, we'll give you a whole bunch of extra money and we'll put you on shore duty where you really don't have to work much, and you'll be in San Diego by the beach, and you show up for work a handful of hours, 3-4 days a week, and we'll sit you there for 3 years. I was like, really? So I did that, and it was everything they had said it was going to be. It was cake duty, really. And it actually bought me the free time,
wow,
the energy that I became. It wasn't long after I got there in spring of 2008 that a person I just met was like, you got to watch Zeitgeist, and handed me Zeitgeist. And from that moment, I mean, I stayed up so many nights, pulled all-nighters for months. I even came into work late a couple of times, and it wasn't because I was partying. I was doing some of that. I was in my early to mid-20s, but I'd come into work late sometimes because I had been up all night researching, flora, chemtrails, or just something new that these branches were connecting and getting down to our core and really waking up with it all. So it was kind of ironic that me re-enlisting to have that. I mean, I was getting, after taxes, I was getting $1,000 a month. Or no, it was more than that. $1,000 was it a week? Yeah. It was some crazy amount. It was like $1,000 a week because they give you all this extra. Yeah, it's pretty good. If you live in an area where the housing's expensive, they throw you a whole bunch of extra money to live out in town. And so I had more resources, more time, and I used a lot of that freed up energy to just study and study and study. And I kind of haven't stopped from that moment of original awakening, from that spark.
Thank you, United States Navy, for waking up my buddy Zach. Or giving him the means and the resources,
the opportunity
to wake himself up. So we are very thankful. And so let's talk about Free Your Mind, you guys.
Good.
Yeah, what did you guys think? What was who was your most memorable speaker? Well, I want to know who you guys came to see first.
Okay, well, for me it was Mark Passio, Laura Eisenhower, and those are the main two off the top of my head that I can think of. But I mean, I loved Ross Ben's presentation. It blew me away. He was definitely an underrated guy. I mean, I'm so glad I saw him because his analysis of that crop circle in Philadelphia and the geomancy and the ley lines, it was incredible. That was a very unique perspective brought to the table about that whole area that I had no idea about.
Wow. Well, I didn't. Did you watch his presentation, Rahul?
I caught some of it, yeah, and I was really impressed.
I wish I would have caught it, man. I caught just barely the tail end of it, and all the comments that I've heard, we got to get him on the show, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Reach out to him for next.
I talked to him actually at length outside of the talk, and he had so much knowledge that he had to share.
Yeah, amazing dude. What about who was that was just talking? Mike?
Yeah, that was me.
Zach, what about you, man? Who did you come to see?
Well, I was driven there because of Mark Passio, and I would say that his presentation I liked more than any of the other presentations there. Even though there were all the ones that I caught were really, really good. There was a lot of really interesting, powerful information that was put forward. And one, in reflection on it, it's the meeting the attendees is really what stands out in my memory. It's the fire pit conversations that we had until 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need those gatherings to happen more frequently and in more places.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to get in a meetup. And both of you have a meetup, right?
Well, I'm working on one actually with a guy I met from the Free Your Mind conference. We're actually both making some presentations. Should culminate this month or something soon. And that way we're all going to... He lives out in Canton, which is about an hour away south from me. So we're going to do a kind of a south-north meetup, kind of bridge both Canton and Cleveland. That way we can both build a really strong network between those cities. And, that should be culminating soon. I'm working on a presentation about force versus violence. He's doing, I think, one on psychopathy. And then I think there's another person, too. So we're kind of doing like a multi-quick presentation format to start off and then a discussion afterwards.
Beautiful. So, Ohio people, do you have a website or anything that just nomasternoslave.com?
Yeah, that's just with me and Zach, but so far that meetup group is still in the works.
Okay,
There's no website yet or anything.
Keep us updated.
Yeah, keep us updated, and you're Mike Sabo on Facebook, and people can find you there, or, I'm sure that once we find out, we'll definitely let you all know in Ohio where you can go to find like minds to network and to gain more knowledge. And then Patty started the meetup here in Washington, and we're Free Your Mind Washington, and when she gets back here, we're going to start doing our meetings regularly.
Fantastic, man. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Getting together is really, it'll really alleviate a lot of the isolation a lot of us have felt because sometimes it can be tough. Even if you're a very social person and you carry yourself well and you have a good way of expressing these ideas and opinions, it can still be difficult. So it does help a lot when you know you can meet up and work with people. And also, even I almost want to just plug in that one thing Mark Passio has been talking about recently that I think that what was it called? The Maven targeting. You kind of have a couple people focus on someone who's influential in a social circle or social group, and you just kind of plant seeds. You see if they bite, and it helps with having numbers, and it can really. I think it's a good idea, and I think having groups like this could help do that.
Yeah. Well, what do they say, that a few people lighting brush fires in the minds of others, it's what starts this awakening process to really hit that that bifurcation point, and when you look at flocks of birds, and when you look at the universe around us, there's certain messages that they have. And when you look at large bodies of living beings, it only takes about 15% of those to switch a direction before that whole body will take notice and start switching directions as well. And so by getting out there speaking, and people, like I post up a lot of stuff about police, and a lot of people are having awakenings because I'm saying watch this stuff anyway. It's going to be hard to watch these police beating the hell out of these kids, but you need to watch it. You need to know the truth. You can handle it. You need to watch it anyway. And then people will message me after seeing it, and understandably they're a little traumatized from the wake up process that it takes, and they want to know what they can do. And the only advice that I have for other people out there is speak the truth, speak to others, and know that that they will listen. Everybody's human, and that this knowledge, even though it is sacred, and that we do need to speak it out to people who want it instead of people that are just going to put it down. Don't waste your time on those people. But the people that are ready to hear it will come out of the woodworks and just direct them to the things that woke us up, And we all have different truth seekers out there, male, female, old, young, that correspond with our nature. And the more that there are of us out here speaking the truth, the more people we can correspond with. And so it becomes an exponential growth model.
I just want to read this thing really quick. And this has to do with starting brush fires and getting people to get on board. You guys might have heard of this before. It's called the 100th Monkey. And this was written by Ken Keyes Jr. And it goes, I'm just reading this verbatim. The Japanese monkey, Macaca fuchsata, had been observed in the wild for a period of over 30 years. In 1952, on the island of Koshima, scientists were providing monkeys with sweet potatoes dropped in the sand. The monkeys liked the taste of the raw sweet potatoes, but they found the dirt unpleasant. An 18-month-old female named Imo found she could solve the problem by washing the potatoes in a nearby stream. She taught this trick to her mother. Her playmates also learned this new way, and they taught their mothers too. This cultural innovation was gradually picked up by various monkeys before the eyes of the scientists. Between 1952 and 1958, all the young monkeys learned to wash the sandy sweet potatoes to make them more palatable. Only the adults who imitated their children learned this social improvement. Other adults kept eating the dirty sweet potatoes. Then something startling took place. In the autumn of 1958, a certain number of Koshima monkeys were washing sweet potatoes. The exact number is not known. Let us suppose that when the sun rose one morning, there were 99 monkeys on Koshima Island who had learned to wash their sweet potatoes. Let's further suppose that later that morning, the 100th monkey learned to wash potatoes. Then it happened. By that evening, almost everyone in the tribe was washing sweet potatoes before eating them. The added energy of this 100th monkey somehow created an ideological breakthrough. But notice, a most surprising thing observed by these scientists was that the habit of washing sweet potatoes then jumped over the sea. Colonies of monkeys on other islands and the mainland troop of monkeys at Takasakiyama began washing their sweet potatoes. Thus, when a certain critical number achieves an awareness, this new awareness may be communicated from mind to mind. Although the exact number may vary, this 100th monkey phenomenon means that when only a limited number of people know of a new way, it may remain conscious property of these people. But there is a point at which, if only one more person tunes in to a new awareness, a field is strengthened so that this awareness is picked up by almost everyone.
That is absolutely amazing, dude. And do you know what that field is that we called it? That we called it the morphogenetic field of influence. And that's what we were speaking about. That's check out this scientist by the name of Rupert Sheldrake. He's out of Oxford University, and he does studies with dogs, and that's how I met him. With he has a book out there, Dogs Know When Their Masters Are Coming Home, or something like that. And there are underlying influences of behavior that cannot be picked up by our five senses. In fact, as we get more technologically advanced with these tools that we have, we're starting to realize that our five senses only pick up a small percentage of the available information that's on this plane that we belong to. And that's what's so interesting is that not only does this have to do with sweet potatoes, it has to do with being looked at. Like if somebody's looking at you, there's a science of being stared at. Boom, you can connect, or you can somehow intuitively know that that's happening, turn around and look at that person. Try to do it on a test. Just look at some random person at the coffee shop. Just stare at them and watch how quickly they look at you.
But this stuff is real. It happens.
Right. Well, and that's what it is that just like what we were talking about earlier, nature has these feedback mechanisms that are telling us a whole bunch of information. They're communicating to us. It's just that human beings are so arrogant as a whole that they think that we're the ones that are we label our means of communication orally with the highest means, where that is actually the lowest. And if we look at physical and the numbers and the patterns and understand them, then we take our understanding to that higher level.
That psychic communication.
Right. Well, and we raise our consciousness. And just like with these monkeys with the sweet potatoes across that water, when you teach an animal something, then it's going to not just go in that animal, it goes into the recesses of this morphic field.
Yeah, of all the animals who are connected to that field.
That's right.
And so as we raise the consciousness of other human beings, eventually we will get to a tipping point. And there's another, I don't know if it's an article or if it's an illustration, but it's called the 100th Merkaba. Someone related the 100th monkey phenomenon to the elevation of consciousness in human beings. And that's what we're looking for, is we need to get to a point where eventually everyone gets it. And there's a whole mass of people that are still under mind control. But it's a good sign that we're seeing more and more people break out of it.
Well, and I think that the people that we see are under mind control are the adults.
Yes,
that refuse to listen to the youngsters that are still washing their sweet potatoes, or still eating the sweet potatoes with the sand. That's right. And just
I'd actually like to interject one great thing to this whole consciousness, the raising of consciousness. There's actually a researcher who goes by the name of Mary Rodwell. She's a registered nurse, and she became a hypnotherapist later in her life. And she's out of Australia, and she's done a ton of research with children throughout the entire world. And she's been noticing a trend that kids are now being born with abilities and insights that that never happened before. Kids that feel like they have another family, like an extraterrestrial family, kids that can draw other entities, like 4 or 5, 6-dimensional entities. It's like a light being, or a being not totally physical that they only can see or they see in their dreams. And there's been at least 5,000 cases, she's said, and she's shown of this change. And all the kids are starting to say that we're helping to bring in the new Earth. That's what they continually say. That's the message that they continually bring from across the world. And it's something I highly recommend everyone checking out. Mary Rodwell, she's a fantastic researcher, and she really brought a lot of credibility to a lot of the ET phenomenon to me, because it can get pretty murky when you research that stuff. I definitely do believe there is phenomenon, absolutely, but it can get very confusing. And it's the most top secret thing out there, and there's a lot of disinformation, so it's hard to get the truth on that. And I think she's really on point with it, because the kids are they're not under the mind control that all of us adults have been through, or all of us have gone through and gotten out of. They're fresh. I mean, they're trying to, unfortunately, many of them are being pushed under that, but many of them are refusing the control regardless.
Well, they're aware of it just like I was aware of it I remember ever since I was a kid, man, knowing, I'm still the same person that I was, my body's just grown. And that's what I tell kids now, when I work with them, with the dogs, is that we will, be the same people. We're not going to change. It's just that the body and the world around us will change.
So you're talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're talking about maybe about like indigo children right? And
Right.
Rainbow Children.
Hybrid kids.
That's correct, Rahul. Yeah, something like that. But it's like it's almost a, I don't know, it might be even, there's many names for them. I don't, there's Indigo, Star Child, all things like that, or Star Seeds. But yeah, exactly. Kids that feel they're from somewhere else that have come here to help wake the adults up. It's funny to hear it from like a kid's perspective, since they have a nice humor to it, and
like higher consciousness souls that are incarnating here to raise the vibration of the consciousness on this planet.
That's right. And
exactly.
And when you look at kids, man, it's just like therapy dogs or whatever. You bring in a baby into a room and watch the faces light up of the adults around that room.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's interesting is that as both sides of the spectrum, kids are just now through that veil of life. And so you can ask kids that are younger, do you see, bodies of energy or lights or anything, and watch what happens, man. You're going to be surprised, and listen to them. Listen to them if they tell you that if they have an imaginary friend, ask them about it. And you might be surprised. It might freak you out a little bit. Because then they know that you'll ask them questions, and they might tell you something that nobody would know, but it might be true. And it's just what happens. And I'm looking at that gal you mentioned, Mary Rodwell, and she has on YouTube Basis conference lecture that I've just bookmarked for later. And what's very interesting is that I just I kind of scrolled through it a little bit, the video, and I see a visual trigger sighting of UFOs as an awakening for this gal named Megan. And did I tell you guys about my UFO experience when I was at Free Your Mind?
No, I didn't hear about this.
No.
Did I tell you, Rahul?
You've told me before.
Yeah, and I told Patty at the Free Your Mind meeting, and so basically what happened is I had a friend here that had many of these experiences here at my little ranch up here that I have, and I was like, cool, man, I've met a lot of people that have been experiencers, and I would love to experience and or just to have that direct experience, that gnosis of it. And one night I was putting away my tools in the barn, and he started screaming, "They're here! They're here!" And the way that he was screaming, I thought that there was a dog fight or something. So I came running out, not knowing what was up, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And he's pointing up to the sky, and he's like, "They're here!" And I didn't have my glasses on, and so I'm like, "Let me get my glasses, old man here." And my wife is out there too, and she's looking up, and she's telling him, "I see them, yeah, absolutely." And so I get my glasses and I look up, and he's like, "There's one right there." And I look, and it looks like a satellite. It just looks like a star floating slowly across the sky. And so I'm like, "Dude, that's a satellite." And he's like, "There's another one, dude. Watch this." And I'm like, "What?" And I see another one flying kind of above. I have a little mountain right across the street here. And he's like, "Can you get brighter for us?" And he talks to this star, and the star, I bullshit you not, just starts getting bright, man. And I am convinced right then that because he's interacting with this light thing, And here's where it gets interesting, guys. The light thing came over to us and like encapsulated us in this huge light. And what had happened, man, is that my arms were flung open. I felt the most exhilarating experience in my life, and this happened just right out front in the front yard here.
Wow!
And my arms flung open, my legs were together, and my chest kind of went up, and I felt like a crisscross type of energy up my spine, and I compare it to like somebody taking like a bootlace and pulling it straight out of my forehead, and it was like crisscrossed up my spine. So it went and it like unwrapped from my spine and shot out my forehead, and I am just laughing so like it's like I can't even control it. And I look over my shoulder, and my buddy and my wife are in the exact same position, laughing hysterically.
Wow.
And ever since then, man, we've had many encounters with them, And I was just, and ever since then, I take my my camping mat and I'll put it out in my field. And I'll just look up at the light, man, and I'll see them, and it's crazy, But I tell everybody I can. My wife, she's not as open with it as I am, but I think it's awesome. And I just want to know what it is. And Stuart Swerdlow, I talked to him at the conference. Did you guys see his presentation?
Yeah, I did. I liked it. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Very informative.
Well, because he said there's no malevolent, and I didn't know. I want to know more about this. So I asked him about it, and he said that they were interested in my DNA because I'm a redhead, and that's what they did. That they kind of forced a Kundalini experience on me, and he said that that's not a good thing. And so I'm a little bit more aware, and just listening to people that might be experts in this type of field. But I think it's just interesting because ever since then, man, I've had an insatiable appetite to find out the truth about this world and how it's structured and the various forms of influence here.
I just wanted to ask you, what was your level of awareness before that experience, and what was it, going on after?
It was the same. I mean, but I was completely sober. I was just working, and so I remember vividly, but what it was confirmation, and it gave me some solace, because I'm like, it's true.
Yeah.
We're not just, there's something bigger than us. The picture is a lot larger than what we thought, and so it made me breathe easy. Like, okay, cool. There's and during my interactions with these things during the night, you could just have a thought, man, and they can shoot it right back to you with a light. They'll pulse this light, and then you know the answer in your head.
Yeah.
Like the first time I interacted with them, I'm like, "Are you talking to me?" Boom, light comes back in my head. Yes, without a doubt. I'm like, and I start laughing. I'm like, "Oh my God," And so, I start asking them, "What is the purpose?" And the intuitive feeling that I got was, as a dog trainer and as somebody that works with beings of lower consciousness, we have a neocortex. We have abilities. Consciously abilities that are in our mind that dogs are not capable of. And so knowing that we are higher consciousness, it is our moral obligation to be stewards of these animals and to structure a life where it's mutual beneficial, where it's not just all take. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the same type of relationship, and it makes sense because
higher than us, yeah. Right,
it scales up and down, and people, whenever I talk to them about that, they're like, "Were there dogs?" And I don't know. It's just an analogy that I choose,
it's a good
because
analogy.
It's and who cares? I love dogs, man, and it's not a bad thing for me, because they're just animals and experiencing here just like we are. It's just up to us if we can enhance both of our experiences together.
Wow.
But they can't come in and do anything. We have to figure this out on our own.
They're not going to come down and solve our problems.
That's right.
I actually wanted to add one cool thing into this whole, it kind of combines both animals and consciousness. There's been a interesting phenomenon recently. I should say it's at least been more happening more often, is animals are starting to show more signs of higher emotions. Like, they really are showing more empathy. I mean, animals have always done this. I mean, anyone who's an animal, a pet owner, they have amazing abilities to love and feel like we do. But it's even more so. It's almost like more service to others. It's crazy. I've seen pictures of predators with prey that they're totally getting along and helping each other almost symbiotically. And this has been a very interesting trend. I found an article, I think it was from in5d.com or something, and it was really just more confirmation about everything you guys are talking about with, and who knows? I mean, I feel like we're shepherds of the animals as well. We have to have a good cooperative relationship with them, just because they have slightly less developed in some aspects, that does never ever mean we have any right to push our authority over them. We should be, and if you live in harmony with them, you'll benefit too, and you'll feel great. I used to have cats, and they were
they always were a good stress reliever for me. I mean, sometimes they're more independent. They're not like dogs, they do their own thing, but sometimes they really did help. My one cat, his name was Ricky. He's a lap cat. He'd always go on your lap and purr. And that purring, I found it's like actually has healing properties to it too. Done a little research on it. It was really incredible. It really calms you down. They actually do it to regenerate parts of their own body, or to make themselves just calm down. It's like not always they're just happy, but sometimes they just do it to
alleviate
it's
stress.
like just a healing modality they use on themselves, and we can benefit from it.
Vibrationally, yeah.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
Everything's a frequency, including that purr, including every word that we say over this podcast today, is wavelengths, and animals can put our mind in such a wonderful space. I mean, ask Patty over there. Patty, you have your animals, and have they aided in your healing?
If it wasn't for my animals, I think I would have gone crazy living here with my parents. So I'll just throw that out there. But they are a source of truth, I think, and they're not programmed by the things that humans are programmed by, and they connect and live in the moment. So those are things that I think that are really important reminders for us as humans.
Tell us a little bit about your experience. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit in the past, but just tell us a little bit about your experience, like seeing your parents, seeing them watch television, seeing them immerse themselves in mind control.
Without getting in trouble and sitting in the kitchen table right in the middle of them.
Yeah, they are walking in and out. I think they're outside right now, but
okay, tell us all about it.
It is quite alarming to see just how much mind control and programming from the television, how much it influences them. And what's quite interesting, just from my own personal experience, and I left Washington on March 18th, and I remember feeling this sense of dread and this depression, and it kind of hung around with me, I would say, for most of April. Through March and April. And during that time, I was watching a lot of TV just because I was really sad. And I could see just how much I was getting influenced by the programming. And then seeing how it influenced other people in my family, it was scary. It was alarming. And I have since then just kind of removed myself from all of that. And now I'm just reading and getting on the computer and interacting with people that are seeking the truth like I am. And you really have to force yourself to remove yourself from those things because it can suck you in.
Use selective ignorance. Ignore it. You have to ignore some
exactly.
things, and it's not you just don't ignore the important stuff.
And it's a form of entropy too, because people, they turn off their conscious mind and they just let themselves sink to the lowest common denominator when they're watching the television.
What I found really interesting is when I was watching television, I could mindlessly eat an entire bag of chips.
Oh.
And it's like, and then I'd look down, I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
and it's scary. It really is.
It consumes you, and then you consume everything around you, No.
I want to almost add in a quick thing with that eating. I think you're so unsatisfied with what the activity you're participating in that you need as much stimulation as possible because your inner self is so just being dulled down that any additional stimulation you need, and you don't even notice it. When I used to watch TV, I would do the same thing. Even if it was something healthy, I'm like, okay, that's all gone. I don't even notice. I'm not even full or anything. You're never full. You almost have to eat later too.
Like
it's crazy with that.
Well, exactly. You said it, Rahul. And what is located down there? What chakras? The want, desire, right? And what do we watch when we watch that TV? What's on all over it? Sex, food, ads, all this.
Consumer. It's stuff that they're trying to show.
That's right. So they want to keep you below in the lower chakras of desire and want and keep you there, and not and in a way that you're actively putting stuff in there that keeps that thing going. So I think that's very interesting that you said that you eat a whole bag of chips and that it's just brainless. And then Mike's like, it dumbs us down so far that we actually need like physical stimulus, like a treat, a carrot, a little a little dog when like throwing a dog a treat or something like that. A little, and what that does too is that's a positive reinforcer.
It's dopamine release.
That's right. So you get that little biological, biochemical response that people get addicted to that. And it takes more and more the next time. And then we wonder why we have so many people obese. And then we look at the biggest problem in the dog world, and it's obesity. And it's just very interesting. And we're, real quick, before we forget, I want to cover number 11. Because that's not only that, but I think that's kind of synchronous that we have 11 for our episode, and then when we do the gematria of that number, what do we have?
2.
That's right, and that's your episode, right?
Yeah, episode 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
and we started recording at 11:11.
That's right.
Which is kind of spooky, actually.
Which is 111 for Patty, where she's located, and
So 11 sees Measure and the Moon. 11 is a mysterious, underworldly number. In German, it goes by the appropriate name Elf. 11 is important as the first number that allows us to begin to comprehend the measure of a circle. This is because, for practical purposes, a circle measuring 7 across will measure 11 halfway around. This relationship between 11 and 7 was considered so profound by the ancient Egyptians that they used it as the basis for the design of the Great Pyramid. A circle drawn around the elevation of the Great Pyramid has the same perimeter as that of its square base. The intended 7-11-fold conversion between the square and curve is demonstrated by numerous surveys. The ancients were obsessed with measures, and the number 11 is central in their meteorological scheme. Shown opposite is the extraordinary fact that the size of the moon relates to the size of the earth, as does 3 to 11. What this means is that if we draw down the moon to this earth, as shown, then a heavenly circle through the moon will have a circumference equal to the perimeter of a square around the earth. This is called squaring the circle. Quite how the old Druids worked this out we may never know, but they clearly did, for the moon and the earth are best measured in miles, as shown. A double rainbow also magically squares the circle. 11, 7, and 3 are all Lucas numbers, sisters of the Fibonacci numbers. New numbers form from the sum of the previous two numbers. The Fibonacci sequence begins 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, whereas the Lucas sequence begins 2, 1, 3, 4, 7, 11.
So you just add the previous numbers there. And the Druid, all these numbers, and the reason why we're going over these numbers is because the designers of this world speak this language, and they put these numbers and these patterns in their architecture. And they put these architecture at certain points throughout the world based on ley lines and energy grids. And even down in Georgia, they have, what are those called? Those, Zach, what are the
Georgia Guidestones?
The guides, yeah, that's right. The Guidestones. And there's so many different mathematical consistencies with those. You went and visited.
Yeah, tell us about your experience.
Yeah, the Georgia Guidestone is pretty interesting. I looked; it's right in between. Was it Charlotte or Charleston? It's on a direct line between this two cities on the East Coast, which I thought it was like almost smack dab in the middle. I thought that was really interesting, and it's on the highest elevation in that area. It's got a lot of. Sorry, I'm moving around a little bit here, guys. It's making noise.
Oh, you're
It's
fine.
got a lot of really spooky things written on it. I don't know if you guys have looked into this at all.
We have. I mean, I've heard about it, and I saw when they put some stone up in there or something with the some numbers
Like
on there.
2015 or 2014 or something.
Yeah, I'll read this.
2014.
It's almost like a 10 Commandments thing. It's got 10 guidelines. And the very first one is maintain humanity under 500 million. So maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So it's calling for a massive culling of our species.
Holocaust.
Yeah, and so it ties in with eugenics. It ties in with a lot of the false concepts of overpopulation. I mean, we have an abundant universe, and our problem is greed. Scarcity is artificial, and the best way to keep a population in balance is education, not violence and genocide. So there's a couple other ones here call for like a one world government. It says
one living new language. So here we go. I'll read them real quick. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide reproduction wisely. Improving fitness and diversity. Where have we heard that? Nazis, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion, faith, tradition. Rule passion. First, rule passion, faith. How do you rule somebody's passion? Anyway, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Tempered. Look at that word, too. Okay. Protect and protect people. But pro is beneficial, tect is like plaster. Okay. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Ding, ding, ding. Social duty. Gotta be. Are you doing your social duties, Rahul?
No, never.
Okay. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Wow, man, this is kind of out there. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. Aren't we nature?
Yeah. Right?
Mm-hmm. Interesting, man.
Yeah, there's some points on here that I think can be taken in a very positive light, but then in the context of the whole thing, I mean, some of these there's no way to spin this other than eugenics and a call for a violent one world, system. So, as we were standing there, we're having a pretty open discussion, and some of the people that actually went with us were on the fence about whether this was a good or a bad thing. So, which I'm glad they were there, because it led for a really interesting conversation as we're staying around this thing, talking about the inherent violence in some of these points.
Absolutely.
And you can't have a non-violent system of people who have the right to be left alone and force a one world government or maintain a population under a number that somebody comes up with.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go through this and just dissect it with the words, man, because those are huge. I mean, the words that they choose to use on this and engrave into stone.
Yeah.
That's right. Set in stone, right? And so we need to look at the words that they use. And a lot of us are very ambiguous or very vague.
Well, they wouldn't be able to. It's like they have to put some truth in there. They can't just completely just put a whole bunch of falsehoods on there. There's they have to put the truth in and then poison it a little bit.
Right, or just remember they have to declare so the masses, or have a warning or whatever they do to do their magic.
Exactly. They have to tell them what they're doing.
That's right.
It's much more powerful that way.
Well, and it's just why, but it also could be, just kind of a mocking thing. I don't even know, who knows what it is, and it's interesting. I definitely want to look into this further.
I saw something last year, I think, where someone desecrated it or something, and then they were saying they were going to charge them for
hate crime,
destroying government property. So, it might be property of the government. Who knows?
I wouldn't doubt it, man. With all these mandates here, this is, right up the alley of, and people need to realize that government is Santa Claus. That it's not real. It's just people acting under a cloak that gives them so-called permission to act immorally. But it's false. And so, wow. So check out the Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah, it's signed by R.C. Christian, which is a tag sign for the Rosicrucians.
You're right.
And I would say that, this is a dark form of dark occultism ritual, to part of their sorcery, black magic, whatever you want to call it, to put out energy, because shapes are energy, words are frequency, and they're choosing these words, these shapes, this structure, this location, to put it out there into the ley lines of the planet, out into the minds of the people, put this energy out there of this agenda that they have. And I think it's 100% dark Rosicrucianism in that war in occult societies. I'd say that this is a monument of the dark forces of that occult practice.
Well, to me, do you know what? When you say ley lines, and when you open up like a computer or a radio or something like that, and you're going to see a soldering board with all these little grid on there, right? And then what do they put? They put little devices that are either conduits or will help dampen the energy or be a transistor, or
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what this is maybe like a little transistor or something on the ley lines of the world that who knows what its sole purpose is. But I think it's
Well, and
because
the
of
Earth
the
is
shape and everything that it is. It just kind of looks like, I don't know. That's what intuitively I'm seeing is kind of like.
Oh, it's like the four directions kind of too, like
Right.
how it's shaped, and it kind of looks like that Greek cross too, with the top and the
What's
little,
that little
middle part.
slit in the middle there?
Yeah, I don't even know what that.
That's got to be like where the sun hits when it's like Babylonian cuneiform class. Oh, it's got Babylonian, Greek, hieroglyphics. So it's got all of the languages when they split off. The Sanskrit to Latin. That's where the Greek to Sanskrit, I should say.
And it was erected on March 22nd, 322.
No shit.
Wow.
322. Yeah, erected on 322, you guys. 1980.
Wow.
So 322 is Skull and Bones.
Skull and Bones, yeah.
But it's also, March 22nd, which is the mark of, the beginning of the season of sacrifice.
Walpurgisnacht, maybe?
It involved Walpurgisnacht, but that's also the
Is that a
day after
different
the
day?
equinox. The day. So that's when the sun wakes up on the northern hemisphere, and 70% of the world's population live on the northern hemisphere, and so that's when that season of sacrifice really starts. And then it goes from there. So that's very interesting. March 22nd, this thing was erected in 1980.
I've got another 322 connection here with the death of Aristotle and Demosthenes. Are you guys familiar with that connection?
No.
22 BC. I think it was Richard Grove in a Peace Revolution episode where he was referencing this. When they got some artifacts from a Skull and Bones, somebody broke in and stole some stuff, and they had this log and they were signing it. It was Latin for after the death of Demosthenes. So they would add 322 years to the current year and sign it and date it that year. And so I just think it's interesting that both Aristotle and Demosthenes was, correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody can chime in that has this better than I do, I believe he was solipsism and deceptive rhetoric kind of, and Aristotle was logic, and them dying on the same year. There's a lot of symbolism there and power in that. I guess they really studied his deceptive rhetoric and passed down that spirit through a lot of the stuff they teach and go on in their politics and business and use that.
Do you know how to spell his name?
Ooh, I hope I'm even pronouncing it right. Let's see here.
Demosthenes, right? Demosthanes, I believe.
Yes. Yep. There it is. Yeah.
How do you spell it again?
Demosthanes.
I've got ENES here.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was just seeing that demon.
Yeah.
Demon was I was interested if that was the first 5 letters, man. Because it's almost his first Democide. What's Democide, right?
Well, I know that name from the book Ender's Game.
Ender's Game. What's that? Oh, that's so Democide. When you look at Democide, Democide is a term revived and redefined as the murder of any person or people by their government, including genocide, politicide, and mass murder. Okay, so very interesting that's also synchronous with.
I'm just looking at a map right now of different events, and they all line up with the Georgia Guidestones. We're just looking at some images.
We need to do a Georgia Guidestone episode with you guys, man. Let's do it. And we're actually coming up at the end of our episode here, you guys. So we're going to have to sign off. So what do you guys have to say? It was so good to have you. And this isn't the only episode that we're going to be doing. We're definitely going to be doing more with you guys. Loved having you. And I want to get into this Georgia Guidestones. The more I'm looking into this, we're looking at the ley lines.
Yeah, well, just real quick, it lines up with the World Trade Center attack, with Katrina, with the Waco, and with
Oklahoma
the OKC
City.
bombing.
And Chicago.
And the Haiti earthquake.
And Haiti.
Wow.
And Chicago,
That's incredible.
Oklahoma
It intersects,
City, Waco.
all those lines intersect on the Georgia Guidestones.
Wow.
Yeah, we need it. Well, let's make we'll do an episode where we just focus on this and just how many. Maybe we can get Ross Ben on that.
Yeah.
Or at least get his input on what he thinks the significance of this monument is. So. How can people find you guys? And we're at freeyourmindpodcast.com is how you can find us. And Mike, Zach, loved meeting you guys and loved having you on, and look forward to having you on in the future.
Yeah, it was a total. Go ahead, Zach.
No, I was just going to say thanks for having us. Yeah, we're at nomasternoslave.com. And thanks so much for having us. I'm looking forward to doing this more frequently.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks a lot. It was great. Learned a lot from this, and just great talking to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Patty, are you still with us?
I'm still here. Thank you, both of you, for talking with us today and chatting with everyone.
Well, I think you and Mike should get together and possibly do a medical, or you guys can do a medical presentation, because you both have that same catalyst that awoke.
Yeah, we'll keep that in mind for a future episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be
Good
great.
idea.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you again for listening to Free Your Mind podcast number 11. We love you, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
See you next time.
No master, no slave.